And this, sir, is the same tape that your engineer retrieved from the television cameras that monitor the activity in your brewery?
Oh, yes. And I'd like to point out that this tape has not been tampered with or edited in any way. It even has a time code on it, and those are very difficult to fake.
For the benefit of the court, would you please explain time code?
Just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean I'm lying.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where two middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are talking about the 1983 Canadian comedy smash something, Strange Brew, starring Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. Nick, I believe this was your pick for us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you picked Strange Brew for, I'll mention it here, our 50th episode.
Wow.
'Cause that's what it is. This is number 50.
Happy 50th.
Yeah,
That's
man.
incredible.
To you too, my friend.
Yeah, and you know, to show that Steve and I have a lot of integrity, we're hitting you with an actual episode and not like a clip show
Right.
of the greatest ums and ahs and you knows of the first 50.
I could probably make a whole episode of just me saying the word ludicrous. I'm pretty sure I could figure that out.
Me saying basically, I started writing them down as I'm listening. I'm like, dude, you got to stop this. So basically, Strange Brew.
Sorry.
Strange Brew, it stood out to me as one of these comedies that just a lot of folks that we know had seen. I saw this one pretty young, and it was one that, you know, my dad was into and stuff. So we kind of bonded over that, and we'd quote it back and forth, you know, calling somebody a hoser. It's not a swear word. There's a lot of fun stuff here. And I haven't revisited this in a long time.
Yeah.
And I thought for 83, like, hey, we're going to mix this up. Like, when are we ever going to see Rick Moranis again? I'm going to go ahead and pick Strange Brew. Yeah, I thought it'd be a fun one to mix it up and a little thematically lighter than my previous pick of Thief.
True. That's a fair point. And even lighter, I think, than last week's Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was obviously, you know, a fun movie in a lot of ways, but also dealt with a lot of serious stuff. There's nothing serious in this movie. No. And that's fine. There's also nothing wrong with that. But it is comical, and it is absurdist, and it is weird. And it's so funny too, because I also saw this pretty young. I think I was probably in late elementary school or middle school when I first saw this. Would have been maybe right around 90 or you know, something in the early 90s. And for some reason, I feel like everybody I knew growing up knew this movie. Yeah. Like, I feel like this was one of those movies that just everybody knew this movie, all of our friends. And I'm not really sure why. You know, I mean, we all love Rick Moranis. Like, that's easy.
Sure.
Right. And I know I watched like SCTV on like maybe like Nick at Night or something. I don't know. I think there was like reruns.
Yeah,
in the
they
90s
brought it out. I do remember seeing that.
So watching all those guys doing that stuff, you know, and then that's obviously where this, you know, sort of originated, right? The Bob and Doug McKenzie stuff was a sketch on SCTV.
But none of us would have known like Bob and Doug McKenzie
before
this movie or anything
for sure
like
not.
That. Yeah,
absolutely. And agreed with the sort of lingo. And I think it's funny because I remember calling, you know, using hoser and knob. Hey, take off your knob, you know, whatever. And like saying a lot. Yeah. And part of it is also funny because I grew up in a family that loves hockey. Yep. So like my parents met at a California Golden Seals game in Oakland back in the 70s. My uncle played amateur hockey until he was like 60 years old. So like, you know, I mean, there's a lot of hockey in my family.
Yeah.
And so, you know, take off your knob is kind of a hockey thing too in a lot of ways. But what I realized watching through this time, we'll get into it more, but like, I think as kids, we missed the best slang word in the movie, which is calling things beauty, eh? Yeah. It's a beauty beer, eh? Like, and it's not, and it's so good because it's not like, it's not beautiful and it's not a beauty. It's just, that's beauty, eh? Like, I really like that. I want to incorporate that. I also think it's weird that this is basically like everything I understood about Canadians until I was like in college.
Me too.
This movie.
And if I met, this movie was kind of like my mental Canadian embassy. So if I met somebody from Canada, I'd just bring up stuff from this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's good stuff. All right. Well, let's jump into the facts.
Yeah, let's do it.
On Strange Brew. All right, Strange Brew came out on August 26, 1983, with a running time of 90 minutes and a rating of PG. Makes a lot of sense. There's not really much
pretty
in this
strong
movie.
PG, I think.
Nice, solid PG.
Like, yeah, nothing objectionable. Really.
We've seen a lot of these early 80s PGs that like shouldn't have been.
Sure, this is not an airplane PG.
No, this one fits. Yeah. All right, directed by Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, written by Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, and Steve Jarnett, and starring Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, and Max von Sydow. actually not sure. Sydow.
I wasn't sure. I'm glad you did that first because I was just going to follow your lead.
Let's go with von Sydow.
Yeah, Sydow looks enough. Good.
All right. And then scores. On Rotten Tomatoes, 75%. Super respectable score for Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, a 6.6, definitely on the low side. Not particularly good. And we get a pair of thumbs downs from the, joyless curmudgeon, Siskel and Ebert.
Couple of hosers,
eh? Yeah, come on, get those thumbs up, you knobs. All right. And that no awards that I could find any real purpose behind. There was something that I didn't recognize, whatever, buried deep in the IMDb, but nothing really to speak of. And here's where it gets kind of interesting because this is the first time we've had this on the show. On a budget of $4 million, Strange Brew pulled in $1.9 million at the box office. This is the first time we've had a movie that didn't at least make its money back.
Wow.
Because we had like The Ref made like a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
I think Jacob's Ladder made like $1 million or something over what it cost. This lost about $2 million, 0.48x its budget. So that is obviously a flop by all manner of speaking.
Canada subsidizes the arts, don't they? They do a lot more of that. So I wonder if it doesn't matter as much it being a Canadian movie because they're not chasing that. But yeah, I was very surprised, especially in light of what you said about, is this movie like the Velvet Underground?
Like something that like gets discovered.
Nobody saw it, but everyone who saw it started a movie podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like, discovering, putting air quotes in the air, pixies when you're like, 10 years old or whatever. You go, what is this? It's like, yeah, dude, people know about it. Not everybody your age knows about it, but like, it's a known thing. But like, I wonder if there's a thing here where it's like, is the budget listed in Canadian dollars in the box office in the US? Maybe that helps bridge the gap a little bit. I'm not sure. Okay. Well, those are the facts on Strange Brew. And Nick, let's hop in, man. How does this one kick off?
Yeah. So I like the kind of immediate, like, fourth wall stuff when this starts because we get the MGM lion, that we all know. And then it kind of pans over and we see the back of the lion who's sticking its head through this hole in the wood with the thing spread. And Bob and Doug are there kind of like messing with it because it's not roaring like it's supposed to. And they're like, hey, make some noise, you knob. Hey, crank his tail. Hey, crank his tail when I was a kid got me so hard. That made me laugh so hard. And I love doing that to my cat to this day.
I bet the cat loves it too.
Yeah, she hasn't moved out yet.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, so like we find out that it's their movie that's showing in a theater inside of the movie. So Bob and Doug are some type of characters of note, at least regionally or whatever, who have made a movie. And then all these people are in the theater watching their movie. And it's them kind of like, screwing around and then showing their movie. So it's like a movie within a movie within a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So I think, let's think of it this way. I think it's sort of like if you take like the sort of American counterpart, right, is sort of Wayne's World, right? Where it's like if you think of Bob and Doug as, guys with a local Toronto suburbs public access channel show, they've somehow been given the money or they've raised money or whatever. They've tried to make a movie and have been able to release it in theaters somehow. And this is the movie that is being shown.
Right.
And people coming to see it are coming because they watched Bob and Doug's cable access show. It's kind of what it feels like, okay? Because one of them even says something. He goes, Doug goes to do if you want to get a free beer, you put a mouse in the bottle. And the guy says, like, from the audience, like, they did this on their show. So it's like, okay, so people are aware of who these guys are.
But then on the screen, they're showing a movie that they made, Space Alien 2051 movie, which is really funny. And it does say 2051, 10 years after World War IV.
Yeah, that's right, World War IV.
TBD, but the boys may have had it pretty close.
I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They always said, I don't know how World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones, right? But yeah, so it is the monster aliens or whatever of 2051. And I love we get a little bit clip from this movie, and it's like the effects are actually not bad. They've done up their van to make it look a little bit like a spaceship. They have a really bad model on a string that goes along, but it's like, okay. And then it's clear they put it on like a lift in like a garage, right, to make it look like it's flying, and it's like I kind of dig the little touches here and there. But then Bob is playing like a guy who's like flying this van around. He goes like, I'm looking in the Omega sector for the aliens and the mutants or whatever, and the Forbidden Zone, I think he says, right? And then it's like he like lands and he gets out, and then Doug's got this crazy getup on, and he's like, hey, I'm a mutant. He's like,
I'm a fleshy-headed mutant.
Fleshy-headed mutant. Are you friendly? No way, hoser.
The way that they're talking is really funny. So, then the people in the audience are getting pissed. They're like, this sucks. It reminds me a lot too of the movie Hot Rod.
Oh,
where they put together that stuntman movie, and then the people start laughing at it or whatever. So they're leaving, and then there's like a mini almost riot, basically, with people looking for refunds. And they have like such a great version of the fed up fat guy who's like, come on, we're out of here. We need our money back. Folks, this is ridiculous. Like trying to get everybody on board with it. Can you believe this?
Oh my God, like talking to everybody around him. But you're right. It's like the people in the movie theater are watching a movie that is Bob and Doug sitting on a couch showing the projection of the movie they made. And in that case, that projector breaks.
Yeah.
So that Alien movie can no longer be shown, but the movie in the theater is still running.
Yeah.
Which is them on a couch drinking a bunch of Elsinore beer and like, talking about like, you want to mess up a movie, you bring these moths in a jar and like the whole deal.
And there are things going, and he's trying to like hold the film up. He's like, hey, zoom in on this, So it's
frame by frame.
And it's like, it's just funny to think that, so this isn't a live broadcast because they're there. So somebody had edited this and put this out as, okay, well, this is the movie we're showing.
I have to assume either Bob or Doug did that editing. You have to figure, but how they even got in the theater, like this is all like very much too deep for this movie. But I do also want to real quick, I'll say when that film breaks, the Bob and Doug on screen, Bob's got a huge, I should make sure we're clear in case you can't remember, Bob is Rick Moranis, Doug is Dave Thomas. But Bob's got an enormous garbage bag full of popcorn. And there's something that always tickled me about like just the sheer amount of popcorn that he's got. But yeah, anyway, so they are able to escape from the movie theater after releasing moths in the cinema that they're in. To I guess ruin the theater, and that just that kind of causes the riot. Like people start running out because the moths are flying.
Well, and they all
over
fly to the projector light, so it'll block the thing eventually.
Yep.
They didn't really show it very well, but that's the theory.
That's the idea.
Yeah. So then we're kind of like into the intro of the movie here. And they're driving home in their van, and we get a pretty like rip ass theme song. I think it's a decent theme song. It's not bad. It's weird though that there's a very famous song called "Strange Brew" by the band Cream. That was like, I don't know. It's kind of
expensive,
too expensive, but like just make a different song or I don't know. Like that was kind of odd to me as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I knew this as Strange Brew, the song first before I knew the other one. So I was like, who's this rip-off artist, Eric Clapton? You're no Ian Thomas.
Oh my God. Well, screw Eric Clapton. So they pull up to a really cute little suburban Toronto neighborhood. Really nice, and it really looks kind of nice. I'm like, I'd live on that street. That looks nice. They pull up, and it's like their parents' house. They still live with their parents. And we just see the backs of their mom and dad's heads. They come in. There are 3 beers left in the fridge. And so they each pop one open and drink it. And then as they pour one into their dog's dog bowl, which has obviously had the dog's food in it. It's a very dirty dog bowl. It says Hosehead on the side. That's the name of the dog. That's when their father, voiced by the incomparable Mel Blanc of Looney Tunes fame, yells back at them kind of in his Yosemite Sam sort of voice.
He is very Yosemite Sam-ish, yep.
Like, hey, save me a beer, you idiots, or whatever. And that's when they realize, oh no, like we don't, so they pour in a glass out of the dog's bowl and it's got all the dog food. It's the grossest
disgusting
thing ever.
And then he continues to pour like the last bits of the grime and everything too. And they're kind of fighting back and forth like, hey, go give this to dad. No, I'm not giving him the beer. You give him the beer. And earlier there were people demanding a refund from the movie. And he was like, oh, here's $15. And they're like, oh, that's dad's beer money. So they were supposed to buy beer for their dad, but they didn't.
Right.
So these were the last 3 beers. And you better go get us. You hosers better get me some new beer tomorrow.
Right, yeah. And it's like, well, you need to give us money, Dad. Take the money I gave you today. So they're in trouble, basically. They got to figure out how to get beer without any cash. They got no money.
I like that the beer place is closed. I mean, that's I wouldn't have expected that of Canada.
I mean, I think they've got a beer store. So I don't think you can buy beer in grocery stores. Like at least maybe couldn't in
state
83.
Liquor store type
but
thing.
So they obviously have some kind of tighter grip on some of that, maybe than every, and in the US it's state by state. I have a feeling in Canada, whatever that is, it's probably the whole country does it one way. If you're familiar with Canadian blue laws, please let us know. But yeah, so they go the next day and they're gonna and Doug's got this idea and he said, well, we're gonna go to the beer store and I'm gonna show them the mouse in the bottle and they're gonna give us free beer. And I love too, he mentions you got to put the mouse in the bottle when it's little and let it grow up in there, like as if that's like a thing.
Like, wouldn't you just shove a dead mouse into a bottle?
Well, that's the thing too, is that every mouse in the bottle thing happens several times in the movie and they're all alive.
Yeah.
So they clearly weren't bottled in with the beer because they would have drowned and suffocated in the sealed beer bottle. So, but that's okay. That kind of logic is not important to the McKenzie boys for sure.
Another question though, since we're on the thing about Canadian liquor stores and the rules and stuff, the way this beer store is set up, you just go up to the register, tell them exactly what you want, and then it appears on a conveyor belt. Is this how they are, or is it a budgetary constraint thing that they were like, look, we can't afford to stock a fake beer?
No, because
it just seems like that must be how it is.
But they already had like 50 or 60 boxes of like Elsinore beer and Molson and stuff like around on their little movie. So they could have just done that.
Stacked those.
Right. They could have stacked even empty boxes, right? That look like that. Because Elsinore is a fake brand anyway. Though.
You have to know exactly what you want. Certain people, I think my wife would have trouble with that store.
We got to go. You just got to give her a shopping list.
Yeah. Because you like to browse and everything. But so they get their beer. And on Price Watch here, 24-pack of Elsinore beer is $14.70 Canadian.
Yeah. Right.
So it's probably
$12
half.
US.
Like it's when the exchange rate was probably a lot worse.
That's probably true.
So they went to the beer store. The guy did not buy their bullshit though. They put the mouse in the bottle. He's like, look, get out of here. You want free beer? You better go to the brewery.
Right. Which I guess, there is some logic behind the idea that I have a clear problem with this bottle of beer that I bought from you. Please make it right. Like on its face, that's not an insane concept, I guess. But the way they're going about it is pretty strange. Hey, Strange Brew. Look at that. Okay. But yeah, so they're going to head off to the Elsinore Brewery. And it's funny when they first kind of get there, this is the first really obvious use of matte backgrounds, which is all over this movie, the painted sort of scenes, and so it's like they clearly like drove up to some place with hills and just filmed it. And then they've got painted into the background, several buildings, right? There's like a castle and it says Elsinore Castle. And then right next to it is like, some smokestacks. It looks like a brewery, could be. So then it says Elsinore Brewery. And then the other direction is the Royal Canadian Institute for the Mentally Insane. And it's just kind of, it's a different road, but it really is kind of right there, right next to the other ones. And so, they make jokes about, I'm going to take you to the loony bin.
Yeah. They're driving to the brewery. It's like, okay, we'll go to the brewery first, then I'll take you to the loony bin. And they walk into the brewery.
Well, no, first they at the front gate.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
right.
The gate thing.
The front gate. They come up and there's a car stuck, like the gate closed on her car, like and she's stuck there and she can't get out because it's like right on the doors. And they notice there's like sparks and stuff. So Doug smartly says, "Don't get out." Not that she could, but like, don't get out. The rubber tires are helping keep you grounded. Like you get out and you could get shocked, And it's like, okay, you probably shouldn't touch any part of the metal car at that point, but. They decide to go ahead and ram her from behind. And I love there's an element here of like Doug telling, because Doug drove the whole time and he's telling Bob, no, you got to drive because if she says she gets whiplash, it's going to be you, not me.
She sues for whiplash. And it's this big emergency. And before he solves it, he has to get back out and be like, hey, you're not going to sue for whiplash, right?
But they do. They help her out. And this woman, it turns out, is Pam Elsinore, the daughter of the, we soon find out, late sort of owner of Elsinore Brewery. But this is who they've helped get through. And so she goes off because she's got stuff to do. She's got people to talk to, and they're taking their time to kind of get into the place. So they don't go in together.
Oh yeah. So that's important that they save Pam there, and then they walk into kind of like the main office there and are speaking to the receptionist, and he just says, we have an appointment with that guy there, and points to the painting of John Elsinore, I guess, who's passed away. So, she finds out they're full of shit, and they end up this very funny scene of them bribing her with donuts. They just have like loose donuts in their pocket and she takes it. The way that like currency works in this movie is really funny. Like it's not quite grounded in we're doing this to be rich or whatever. It's like,
I think the only cash exchange we see in the entire movie is that guy in the alley getting his money back from for the movie, whatever. That's it.
It's
everything
all just
else
like
is other stuff.
Beer and donuts. And, so they end up getting in. They get into.
Well, they get hired basically. Pam kind of comes and is like, well, you guys can.
They take their complaint. They're like, oh, well, you got a problem? Or you got a problem with mice in the bottles? Stand here on the line and make sure there's no mice in the bottles.
Because what we find is that basically what's happening here, I'm going to try to like sum it up without giving away too much, but basically like there is a brewmaster named Brewmeister Smith is the name, but he's basically like the head brewing guy, right? And he worked with the last owner. But the owner died recently. His brother is very Hamlet. His brother then married his wife, the late man's wife, to become potential, I guess, owner of the brewery. But then there's this whole thing of like, no, once the man died, his daughter, actually, Pam, gained all the rights or 51% or something of the ownership.
Yeah.
But the brewmeister's got something else going on, and he's been eliminating other workers from the brewery. Like there's nobody working on the lines, right? It's like a skeleton crew basically. He doesn't want people around.
Yeah.
And so then there's this other sort of like, it looks like maybe like the floor manager or whatever, the foreman kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, there might be mice in our beers because there's nobody here to do quality control. You two, you're hired, come do quality control, which is I love too, because then they're like watching the spot. There's literally a mouse checking station where like all the beers are like backlit for one part of the conveyor. And they're standing there just looking at him. And I love, you can tell Doug is like mouthing numbers, like he's counting them, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But they're both just looking. And then finally Bob grabs a couple off the line, like, hey, here you go. Hey, let's have beers while we're working.
Yeah, beauty.
It's
Yeah,
like,
beer on the first day of work.
Right.
But
Beauty
yeah,
job. Yeah.
the way that they're watching the line is funny because Doug is kind of like counting. And then Bob, it's like he can't do it fast enough. So he keeps getting lost and like starting over.
And there's an element here too. I'm mentioning Wayne's World again, but there's an element of Wayne's World where they actually directly spoof the opening of the Laverne and Shirley show. Right. But I think it's maybe Wayne's World too. But but for some reason it reminded me of this too. Like there's an element of just the conveyor belt and the industrial, sort of place and following things with their heads moving back and forth. For some reason it really gave me Wayne's World 2 vibes.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
We wouldn't have Wayne's World without
Strange Brew. I agree with you. Yeah.
So one of the things that the Brewmeister is doing is they're giving the beer that he's brewing, the special formulation of the beer, to the inmates at the loony bin that's next door there. And there's this other, I forget the guy's name, but he's kind of their henchman, one of the other scientists or whatever. And he's sitting at a big synthesizer. He's like, okay, watch this. When I play this, their behavior changes. Yeah. And then what they do is they're wearing like classic loony bin outfits, like Ace Ventura at the asylum.
Too many robes.
Yeah. Like unmatching flannels. Yeah. But they immediately sprint and put on these super cool looking like Stormtrooper hockey outfits, like one black team and one white team. And as he's playing it, it'll make like, black be aggressive towards white, vice versa and stuff. So there's some kind of like mind control in the beer that we're shown.
And I feel like this is maybe one of the most realistic parts of the movie. And when I say that, I mean the idea that a Canadian brewery has its own hockey rink somewhere on site. I 100% buy that. I feel like it's like an American.
It's like an executive racquetball court.
Yeah, or having like a basketball hoop.
Yeah,
right? I feel like, there's a hockey rink there. That makes total sense. I don't question that for a moment.
Oh, we only got a half court rink here. We didn't have room to put a full one in.
It's all for shootouts, eh? Like you just go from the red line. But this is also this is kind of when I realized as I'm watching, oh my God, the storyline here is so like Hamlet. There's obviously not quite the same like there is no Hamlet because Pam kind of isn't that character, but the whole like brother kills brother or we don't know that yet, but like, whatever, like brother dies, his brother like comes and like marries the wife. Like it's all gross and weird, but is pulled straight from Shakespeare, it feels like. So Bob and Doug are Pam takes them into like the break room, basically looking for like the employee cafeteria. And it is empty. Like there's like nothing. The power's off. It looks like it hasn't been used in ages. But like I actually noticed before they mention it specifically, the Galactic Border Patrol game. For some reason, that name really struck me as funny. Like what an interesting concept of there being a galactic border.
New governmental agency coming soon. Look out for it. But yeah, it's not a bad break room. I mean, for 83, working a blue collar job, you got 4 arcade machines, you got vending machines, and Bob is talking about, oh, hey, they got smokes in these and sandwiches in these vending machines, and then it starts spitting stuff out at some point.
Yeah, because they turn the power back on and a bunch of stuff pops out. Like all like comes flying out, and that's when somebody notices, like, oh man, these sandwiches have been here for months and months and months. Like these are not.
He's like drinking a chocolate milk.
Oh, that's right. It makes him super sick.
But one of the in our second magical video game movie.
That's right.
One of the arcade machines turns on and it has these weird names. Like it has high scores, but it'll have Pam Elsinore, but then it has her birthday. And it has her dad and his birthday or whatever. And then it'll show the date that he died.
Yeah, because it was like 0404, 083 or something, or whatever that goes, 0403.
So it's like showing all this weird stuff. And then it starts to kind of overheat and they have to
like unplug it.
But it's like, uncanny stuff that is not in the video game. So they're like, what's happening here?
And the little bit of special effects, like obviously 1983, $4 million budget. They obviously spent a lot of money on the matte backgrounds because those are great. Those actually look wonderful. A lot of these other special effects are really rudimentary. Like the little like things lighting up. And there's like a few different points in this movie where like lasers kind of fly around a room sort of, and they all look, just to be totally honest, kind of shitty. But what are you going to do? But yeah, so then Pam goes to Brewmeister Smith and basically tells him that he's fired, but because she's going to take over control. She's basically maintaining control. They try to buy her out.
Right.
Her uncle and Smith try to buy her ownership stake out. And she says, no, like, this is my father's brewery and I'm going to keep running it the way he ran it. Like, this is special beer because of the way my dad ran this place. So I'm going to take care of it. And you're all gone, or whatever. And she goes to fire him. And this was the weirdest thing in the world to me. She gave him 2 weeks notice.
Okay. That was very odd to me.
Yeah.
And that's just,
maybe that's a Canadian
thing. That's how much Canadians respect their workers. Even if they're firing you for cause, like, hey, I don't like this mind control beer that you're brewing, or you killing my dad, but I'm going to give you 2 weeks because I know you got a lot to worry about.
From the bourgeoisie side, I now understand why you don't give somebody 2 weeks notice to fire them, because now he goes into ultimate fuck everything up mode, right? And he unleashes his plan faster to try to kill her and everything. I mean, it's like if you just fired him and had him escorted off the premises, maybe this doesn't all happen, right? Like, so
you had a whole army of hockey guys. Well, maybe she couldn't control him.
Well, she certainly wouldn't know about how to control them, right? She'd have to stumble upon that, but yeah.
So one of the workers that first brought Bob and Doug into the office was this guy that they had recognized as being a former pro hockey player named Rosie LaRose. It was like Sean LaRose or something. Rosie. But he went by Rosie.
Played for the Montreal Canadiens,
And he's kind of like a worker and kind of a patient at the asylum. Like, it's hard to tell where he lies, right?
It's really odd because when we first see him, he's got the hard hat, he's got the outfit that very much makes him look like an employee of the brewery, but he's also got that zoned out sort of look like he might be on lithium or something where you expect, the loony bin people, right? And he's obviously also clearly involved somehow in the hockey now. But here's the thing, though. I don't think he actually is under mind control, although he does say later it wears off, but maybe he's like whatever, because he's conscious enough to talk to Bob and Doug, because this is the kind of what you're getting at right here, is that he's bringing them into the game. They're both getting goalie uniforms on. And he's conscious kind of enough about what's going on to say, like, all right, hey, like, just, he's got a French Canadian accent I can't do, but like, basically like, I got to play hard. You guys will be okay. Like, but just forgive me because I'm about to play hard because I have to. But he's got enough wherewithal to like recognize that as like a thing he should say. So he's obviously clearly not completely under control of the magic organ that is doing this, but he's also clearly part of it. But yeah, they put him up. They put the two of them in gear to play goalkeeper. You got Bob in the white outfit and Doug in the black, and that's when Doug is like, come to the dark, or give into the dark side of the force, you knob. Like, he's and he's like, oh, he saw Jedi 20 times in the theater.
Yeah.
Like,
they're making fun of the skates that they have. He's like, these white skates, they look like figure skater skates. He's like, oh, these figure skaters can skate. You look like referee skates. I
also love there's a point where the white team charges at Doug on the ice rink, and then they stop because like the music changes because they're kind of testing things out, and he's like underneath his mask, so it's kind of hard to hear. He goes, the power of the force stopped you, you hosers. Definitely appreciate the Star Wars stuff.
Totally. And at this time, I mean, Star Wars was big and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it was just the first two, I think.
No, 83 would have been Jedi. Would have come out right around then.
Was made versus when it came out.
Definitely.
Let's see here. So there's another kind of magic video game scene because they bring this like shop foreman guy to show him, like the guy who seems like on the side who showed them around when they first got their jobs. I forget the character's name, but they're like, hey, look, this is what happened, and they go and plug everything in again, and it gets crazy. And then the video game is now showing like video footage of Pam's dad, just kind of weird of his death, but then it's like the video that she had already seen of his death plus some extra footage to show that it had been edited and everything. So we're getting some information now from the magic video game.
Yeah, and it's like a video. Yeah, basically, it looks like what the official story is that like he somehow touched the electrified front gate, for whatever reason, and that electrocuted him and he died. That was it was accidental, right? That's the thing. But then we see additional footage that clearly, was edited out of whatever was given to the Mounties or whatever of basically the uncle, so the dead man's brother, Pam's uncle, and Brewmeister Smith, like kind of putting a clearly already dead man up against that thing to make it look like that's what's going on. So we're getting hints here that there's really, really horrible stuff happening in the background, right? This is all nefarious.
And there's cameras everywhere here, but Brewmeister Smith and the uncle, like they know where everything's at, right?
Right.
So they're manipulating that. They have this whole like really cool back control room that we hadn't really talked about yet. This big control center and everything.
Bunch of computers.
And so they basically get Bob and Doug while they're in the hockey game. They get their clothing.
Yes, that's right.
And position themselves in a way that from behind they are Bob and Doug.
Yes.
And
that's what the camera can see, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And they take Pam and the other foreman dude out with a tranquilizer dart. Man, I love how easily tranquilizer darts work in movies,
Especially this movie. It's there's not even a dart because nothing's visible. Like we have several times where someone gets hit with a, this tranq gun. There's several, but like where someone's nearby. So if this was like, was it Old School when Will Ferrell takes the tranq dart into the neck, like it's hanging out of, it's a big dart, right? Nothing like that. It must be some minuscule
It just has
pellet.
the sound. As long as you make that sound, it's a tranquilizer.
Exactly.
So they've done this to set up Bob and Doug.
Yes.
And now Pam and this dude have been sealed into beer kegs.
Yep.
And then they have Bob and Doug, coming to in their clothes again in their van. And they're like, oh, hey, you guys have a nice nap. All right, I need you to deliver this stuff.
Right. It's for a party. It's for a party. Pam's got a birthday party. You got to deliver these kegs to the party, basically. Yeah.
And we see that they had cut the brakes in the van. They had their like henchman guy take care of the brakes in the van
in a very specific way, because he says something like, oh, they get 2 stops and then it won't work. And it's like you can press it twice because you got to press the brake to just go down a hill, right? Like that's not. So it's an interesting thing, but they say they got 2 stops and then it won't work.
Yeah.
And this is important because they're driving along and Brewmeister Smith and the uncle are following them in a car. And kind of to make sure that they're going to do what they want them to do. And they stop in the middle of the street. I can't remember why even, but they just like stopped. Like, what was it?
He just slams on the brakes. And then Bob is like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, you just got to test the brakes out sometimes. Right. So it's like he's burning one of the 2 stops that they have, which is very good.
And then they decide to go home to their house. And they go home and they walk in on their mom and dad having sex. But it's Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis as like dressed up.
Okay.
And you only kind of see them from the waist up, but it's like, wearing wigs. But then the voice, because the dad goes like, what are you idiots doing? And it's still Mel Blanc. But the actual mom and dad are played by Rick and Dave.
Funny.
Yeah.
And the dog, the dog hasn't been fed or whatever.
Right.
And they go to feed the dog. I love the cartoon scene of the dog looking at them. And then they appear as these like giant steaks with heads.
That's right. Because he's so hungry. Oh, we forgot to mention Doug and Bob, they got into the computer room. And at some point, a disc was spit out and Doug threw it into his pants, like a disc from a machine, right?
Was it keeps calling it bootleg. Hey, it's a bootleg.
It's a bootleg.
And I love that he was just so interested in it. He didn't know what was on it. It's just like, oh, hey, there's music on this.
Must be, right? It looks like it's one of those square records.
Yeah.
So they've taken it home and they go to put it on their turntable, whatever, on their hi-fi, and it doesn't make any noise because it's a computer disc, and so it doesn't do it, right? So they toss it at Hosehead, the dog, who like catches it perfectly. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is Bob going, "Beauty, Hank Aaron. Wonder if he can hit." I just love that.
I really love that too.
Beauty, Hank Aaron.
So they're back in the van now, and one of my favorite parts of the film is they're having this conversation, and Bob is like, "Hey, you ever notice in movies how when they're driving, they're never really looking at the road?" And then Doug just he's steering and then leans on the steering wheel like it's a counter and fully turns towards Bob. He's like, huh, no, I had never noticed things. And then, oh no.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They're being towed by a rig. And then that's when they realize the brakes have been cut. So they're now kind of out of control. Yeah. And I love this too, because then Doug is like, he lets go of the wheel and he's like, well, no point in steering now. Yeah. Which is just like, no, dude, please steer.
What a great reaction though. Over there's no point in steering now.
Yeah, we're done. And they get to like a dock. They're basically, they end up on like the dock somewhere or whatever. And the van drives right off into the water. I'm not even sure exactly. It's Toronto, so whatever, river or something, I guess, because right there. And the boat starts to sink. And Rosie, who I guess has been following them, right, was the thing, runs because I can't remember exactly how this works, but I think Rosie knows Pam is in the thing, like is in the back of the car, and so he dives in and is able to help save her or something like that. Whatever the kegs fly out. So Rosie basically gives Pam his oxygen and she's able to swim to the top, and then he's left really down on the roof of the van underwater. We don't see Bob and Doug at this point either. And that's when we get the intermission card, which I totally forgot happens. It's only a 90-minute movie, so like you don't really need an intermission.
And it's like 5 seconds long, if that, right? Yeah, I like the intermission, but it's funny that they're giving us this impression like, oh, well, they must be dead. Quick intermission, and then it doesn't even change scenes. It just goes to the scene it was already on.
But like the police have arrived, there's divers, and so they're now sort of like investigating, what's left or if there are survivors or whatever. So the divers get down, and we see Bob and Doug and Rosie are all inside the van, and somehow they've like trapped air in beer bottles and have been able to continue breathing. Now they haven't tried to leave. The back of the van was open, if I remember correctly, but they could have gone out a window or something.
Out before they went in the water too,
exactly.
So they opened his keg up and stuff.
So like everybody's safe basically, but it's like, why haven't Bob and Doug and Rosie just tried swimming to the surface? They're just sitting down there, inhaling air out of beer bottles. Yeah. But then the divers are like, oh hey, and then so they're able to come up. But yeah. So funny.
It was a good way to end that scene.
Yeah. But this also means Doug and Bob have now been arrested on the suspicion of kidnapping Pam and the other, brewery worker. So they are in deep trouble now.
Yeah, and they're having this conversation, the classic scene of you're in jail and you're embellishing your story to try to sound tough. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't even do the killing, it's
Chip.
That's
he
his
keeps
job.
calling him Chip.
Yeah.
It's Chip here. It's his job to do the killing.
I'm more the brains of the operation. And then they say something about, oh yeah, we're not going to lawyer up. We're not weak like that. And then immediately, Bob and Doug McKenzie, your lawyers here. And they get up and start sprinting.
Run. And all the other inmates in the holding cell are pissed. Like, wait a minute, it does remind me very much. I think same calendar year, right? Was Trading Places, the scene in the Philadelphia jail with Eddie Murphy. Very similar vibes. But their lawyer is actually a lawyer. We have seen this guy earlier in the movie. He's clearly a lawyer for the brewery. Like he works with Pam's uncle, and with Brewmeister Smith. And so, we're already suspicious, whatever. But he even say like, oh, yeah, we recognize you from the brewery. And he's like, yeah, I'm your lawyer, boys. And so basically, he says like, yeah, you've got all these charges, but we'll figure it out. Like, don't worry, kind of thing. So then they go to the court. And the lawyer's walking up, and there's all this gaggle of press, right? So all these people are ready to like ask them questions. And this is hilarious. He goes, "Oh boys, wait here. I'll take care of this." And lawyer karate. He just starts whooping everybody's butt.
It was awesome. It was like Robert Stack taking out the Hare Krishnas in Airplane on his way into
very similar vibes.
I mean. Excellent. And that lawyer looks like he would know. I mean, that guy looks like badass.
He looks smooth.
Yeah.
You can tell sometimes actors try to do stuff like that, and it's like, man, they had to be dragged kicking and screaming through the choreography to figure it out. This guy looks like he has some moves, like for sure. Whoever this actor is that played the lawyer. And then there's one woman, like reporter or whatever, who like also kind of like, once everybody's been like kind of scattered, there's one left, and she's got like the right pose and the right moves, and there's like more of a fight. Like they actually fight for 20, 30 seconds. It's like, I love there's a little choreographed karate battle in the middle of this movie.
I mean, there's things that they probably decided like, all right, if we ever make a movie, it has to have this in it, and they made sure it was in there.
Exactly.
I think we get a quick view back to Brewmeister Smith basically saying, oh, looking for the disc.
Yes, that's right.
And he's like, oh, we're missing one. Yep. Oh, they took the only disc that would incriminate me, even though the machine just spit it out to them. So it's obviously being helped by the ghost of John Elsinore.
That's the other thing that we've been getting between like the video game machine in the cafeteria, and then a handful of things that have happened in that control room, and like the disc spitting out and like all this stuff. We're getting the sense that like the spirit of John Elsinore is like helping the McKenzies solve this mystery, even though they have no idea that they're doing it. Like they don't know they're involved in figuring out a murder, right? But they are being helped along in a way that has convinced the murderers that they are in fact very savvy investigators, right? That are here
it's kind
to
of
take
like
them down.
Like in Dumb and Dumber, where they're like, oh, these guys are really good. How do they know I have gas problems?
That's right. How'd they know about my gas? Can't wait to do that one too. But now, so they are in, so what I do, so we have that Brewmeister Smith realizes that disc is gone, and that, that's the incriminating evidence. So the last time we saw that disc, it was in Hosehead's mouth, right? Like they literally, like they don't even have it anymore. They just threw it to the dog.
Yeah. And we're at the trial now, I guess. Bob, pretty quick trial turnaround.
It might have been more like the arraignment or whatever, maybe. I don't know if this was like the full trial, because there's no jury. So like, I think this is probably just the arraignment, like, kind of thing. Like, and what they're doing is their lawyer, because he's really working for the brewery, is trying to say, well, they're going to plead guilty to like a couple of things, but then not guilty to like the kidnapping and all this other stuff by way of mental insanity or whatever, right? Like an insanity defense. And so, which, on its face is pretty easy thing to prove with these two because they talk and act like kind of morons. So like, okay. But then there's
when they're in there, the uncle they're showing the video of, Bob and Doug, not Bob and Doug.
Right. But,
I'm making air quotes for everyone listening.
Exactly right.
Bob and Doug, who is really the brewmeister and the uncle in their clothes, like, taking out Pam.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment about like, it has a time code and that's extremely difficult to fake. And then the lawyer says something like, could you explain what that is to us? He goes, just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean I'm lying.
I love it. The guy could not be more inept.
He gets a couple really wonderful lines in this.
But then they end up, I think Doug gets a nosebleed, right? And or no, that's near the end. That's at the end of the hearing. No, Brewmeister Smith comes on, and they talk about him as if I guess he runs the institute too. Like, so it's like I don't think we got an indication of that prior to this point in the movie. But he's apparently also a doctor of psychology or whatever that runs the Royal Canadian Institute for the Mentally Insane, and basically is just saying like, yes, these two are clearly insane, and whatever. Like, that they should be remanded to his care rather than put in jail. That's sort of like the gist of it. They want control over these two.
Right.
So that's when I think Doug gets a nosebleed and Bob, is like, oh, he needs tissues, and he's just got, mounds and mounds of tissues.
Yeah, they can't get it stopped.
And they can't get it to stop. And for whatever reason, the bailiff or the other lawyer, like the prosecuting attorney, like for the state, asks the bailiff for a couple of bullets. And they shove 2 bullets up into Doug's nose, and that stops the bleeding.
Yeah,
until he sneezes.
Well, Bob is trying to make Doug laugh this whole time.
Oh, that's right.
Right. So they're doing their swearing in on the Bible, and he keeps making little jokes and comments. Oh, we're gonna have to split the plea. He's like, oh, I'd like 2 bowls of split plea soup, please. Right. And he's like, quit making me laugh.
That's right.
And I think he finally makes him laugh so much that he. And the
it's a nose gun
blast out of his nose, and it's a great shooting around the. So I mean, if they weren't already screwed,
exactly.
Then now they definitely are. So they got to go off to the asylum.
Attempted murder of a magistrate, maybe getting added to their to their like rap sheet. But yeah, so they are remanded to the Royal Canadian Institute of Mentally Insane under the protection, whatever care of Brewmeister Smith, which he calls himself B.M. Smith rather than Brewmeister, because in this context he's supposed to be like doctor, professor, whatever the hell he is.
So are we to believe that his first name is Brewmeister in this?
I guess so.
Okay,
maybe that's
like
sort of a what's that? What's the old Rankin and Bass with Meisterburger, Burgermeister, whatever that whole thing. Like, maybe it's a reference to that somehow. I don't know. I'm gonna go with that. But yeah, so they do that, and now it's time to, they're gonna put them through electroshock therapy, basically. So they're like,
quickly before this, when they're at the asylum, really funny. They're in their padded cell, and they're both in their straight jackets on the floor, and still fighting with each other. There's no sense. I mean, the unreality of this movie is that they never really have a sense of like, what are we doing here? We're screwed. Like, they're so just at each other no matter what. And so they're not like, oh, why are we here? They're just bickering with each other about dumb stuff.
It's like they have no understanding of the context of anything.
Yes.
Right. And so they don't understand where they are, why they're there. They're just like, all they care about is, kind of bickering with each other, because that's basically how they show brotherly love, is just sort of messing with each other, which is not uncommon. But when's our next beer? And they don't ever think to themselves like, well, no, we're not going to go home tonight. We're staying here. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just kind of like, oh, whatever, we'll go here. Okay.
Very present.
All right, eh? Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very zen, actually.
Yeah. It is nice.
But maybe a little concern for your immediate future is good for survival. But yeah.
But to mess with each other as they're in their straitjackets, they're doing this thing that Doug calls the steamroller, which is just rolling over them in slow motion, and they're just rolling. So it's funny that the doctor who's about to pull them into the shock therapy and stuff comes in, and he's just like, you guys cut it out. Like, they have so many people who have to be like, you guys knock it off
exactly.
as adults.
Oh my God. So they go into the electroshock therapy room, and the doctor leaves and is just like, stay here, basically. At which point Doug hooks up some of the electroshock to himself, and basically like Bob is shocking Doug like a small amount. They're like playing with it. They're like, trying it out or whatever. And then it gets to be Bob's turn, and that's, he's like getting it on his head. And he's like, I'm going to turn it up to 90, eh? Like it was on 30 before. He's like, oh, okay, that'll be a lot of fun. And then, and that's when the doctor comes back. He's like, oh, what are you guys doing? And it kind of like looks like they're going to be in some trouble, except here comes Rosie. And that's when Rosie pops in and basically like hip checks. Like literally it's like a hockey hip check, knocks the guy into the little control room and is just like, okay, let's go. Where's Pam? I'm looking for Pam. Eh? Like
Rosie's great. I really like that guy. They were hooked to, before they were hooked to the electric stuff, they were hooked to the lie detector. Where that scientist was asking, about what they knew and everything. So is your name Bob McKenzie? Yes. Okay. He's telling the truth. And then Doug farts.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, that wasn't me. And the needle starts going crazy.
The cherry.
Really, really juvenile. But this is the kind of thing that made me love this when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so Rosie saves the day and now they've got to go look for Pam.
Right. So Pam, fortunately, is right across the hall. They saw Bob, I think, look in a window and saw her.
Window.
So they know that she's there. So they're able to go and release her from her straps. And so now the four of them are going, and Rosie knows about the tunnel from the mental institute to the brewery. So he says, like, hey, come on, let's go through and go back to the brewery through here. And I think at this point, that's when the lunatics are sort of let out of the asylum as well, right?
Like, so they're going to let them out, and they have to split up when they're going apart. So I think Bob goes with Pam, and then Doug with Rosie.
Yeah, exactly.
So when they leave, we find out that Bob and Doug have never been apart before.
That's right, like at all.
And so Bob, Rick Moranis, is like crying. He's like, we've never been apart. And then Doug is like, hey, I'm glad we got rid of those losers, right? Like, it's just, oh, man.
Big brother versus little brother, I guess, right? But yeah, so they're going to the brewery, and that's when, how do they get captured? Because I'm forgetting. I know that Bob and Pam end up in an empty beer vat, like a big, huge 6,000 gallon beer vat, but I can't remember why or how.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how.
Because that's right. When Bob's complaining about not being apart from Doug, Brewmeister Smith shows up with his trank gun. They don't know it's not a real gun. It's just a gun. He's pointing. He's like, "You'll come with me now," kind of thing. So he captures them basically and puts them into one of these beer vats, and then tells them like, "Oh, you'll be dead soon" or whatever, and then basically just locks it up and turns on the thing to fill the vats. So now the vat's slowly filling with beer, and this made me think of the movie Beer Fest when I can't remember the character's name, but he's the guy who plays Farva in Super Troopers. Yeah. He ends up going into the beer vat and having to try to drink his way out.
100%. Yeah, there would be no Beer Fest, which I think is a great movie. I really get a kick out of that one. Yeah. So of course, the solution.
Yeah.
To get out of there is he just starts drinking all the beer in these very silly looking like swallows of the beer and stuff. But and it makes him gigantic.
Yeah. But like even before that, I think Rosie finds Brewmeister Smith and they're like fighting. And it's like, and I don't understand, why is Brewmeister Smith so strong? Like he is throwing Rosie around. He's like ripping apart railings to use as weapons. Why is he super strength?
He's like, he's like the T-1000.
It's crazy.
And earlier he picked up the uncle like by his ear. He like grabbed his ear, but he picked him all the way up off the ground.
Bizarre.
So that's probably in Max von Sydow's rider. He's like, I need superhuman strength if I'm going to be in this dumb of a movie.
I would be in your stupid movie if I'm allowed to whoop some ass.
But it did look like Rosie's final move that like took him out was like a hockey check into the wall.
Yep.
And then he goes into this wall where they had this map of the U.S. with all these different lights on it, which were probably the places where Elsinore beers distributed or whatever his world domination plan. But then all the lights just start blasting through him like they're lasers. So Brewmeister's outie.
Yeah, Brewmeister's done. But all the beer still got
it's on its way to Oktoberfest.
That's right. Big Oktoberfest celebration, Toronto Oktoberfest, and all this Elsinore beer with all of its mind control drug in it is headed there. And it sounds like, as we start getting some clips as they're setting up the Oktoberfest and the beer kind of arrives, like that's the only beer there because it was free. Like Elsinore, obviously, if you're going to take over the world, you might as well give the beer away for free. Don't charge people for it. So they do that. So basically, the cops have shown up. They understand that because Pam's, everybody's kind of like on the up and up, that Brewmeister Smith was the problem. Doug and Bob are not criminals. They helped save the day. But now we got this beer out there. So they're like, oh, hey, like we got to go home first. But like, let's do this. And so they go home. Doug got this idea. They go back to their house and he's like, we're all waiting outside or whatever to see what happens. And out comes Doug with Hosehead, the dog. And he's painted big white stripes on his back like a skunk.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool. Then the dog flies. Like they give him a map to show him where the Oktoberfest is, and he flies there.
and a cape grows out of the dog as he's midair.
Yeah, and I don't think there was any indication before this that the dog had magical powers, but he flies to Oktoberfest.
We're just we got magic video games. The magic ghost came up to tell them specifically about Oktoberfest.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And this text appeared and said, Oktoberfest, stop them. And then it said, nice effects, eh?
Nice effects, eh? So the dog is flying to Oktoberfest while the cops and Bob and Doug and Pam and Rosie are all driving there to try to get there. So, and sure enough, man, when Hosehead shows up, he just starts running through the tent and everything, and everybody gets away. Because if you actually thought that was a skunk, which doesn't look that much like a skunk, but it would be the biggest fucking skunk you've ever seen in your life. So it would be terrifying.
And also, dude, if I saw a skunk and didn't smell the skunk smell, I'd be like, hang out. You're cool. You're not gonna do your skunk thing to me.
I would leave, but it wouldn't be in a panic.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
you can
I'm
leave
not
at
gonna
a
hang out
normal
with
pace.
this
Skunks are very
skunk
cute.
animal.
We need to find out how to de-stink them. So Hosehead gets everyone to clear out, and they've saved the day.
Yeah.
So now what Bob says is, hey, that truck there, that's all the beer that was going here. Is that so what happens to it? You know, what happens?
Does it
when
make you
drink
sick
it?
or yeah.
They're like, no, well, you have the effect, it wears off for a few days, but if nobody's trying to like mind control you, then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So then, it ends with them driving off in a semi full of beer.
Well, I love it too, because Doug says like, oh yeah, I'll take that off your hands, eh? And then like, I think Pam asks, do you know how to drive one of those things? And Bob goes, oh, he doesn't know how to drive a 10 speed. And then Doug kind of elbows him like, stop, whatever. It's like, but I'm still thinking to myself, Dad, you can't just sit in one of those and drive.
No, and they were even saying like, 10 speeds, 5 speed times 2.
Yeah, right. Like, can't be that hard. Right. Yeah, but sure enough, they drive off into the sunset, as it were, and with their huge thing of beer. And then this is one of those movies that like, it never actually ends until the credits are done, right? Like, because we're back to sort of the Bob and Doug sitting on the couch at the beginning of the movie, talking about how good that movie was, like, hey, and all those other people left and they missed this part. Don't they feel stupid,
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, they do it through the whole thing, all the way to the end of the credits.
Yeah, and I like pointing the names as they're going by. And there's a guy right there, and they track their finger up as like, oh, he's the gaffer. What's the gaffer do? I guess he gaffs.
He gaffs, yeah.
So yeah, I mean they did everything they could with that, and what a goofy ass movie,
It's a goofy movie.
with some people that I really really like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was your pick, Nick. Why don't you? Yeah, give us your final thoughts first.
Yeah, so I did enjoy watching this for sure. There's nothing objectionable about it. There's not really anything that I feel drags. It's pretty good 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing my ass off like I used to, but it's a PG movie too.
Right, there's that.
It's something that's fine for a 7-year-old to watch, as long as you're fine with glorifying beer. Although I don't know if it really does that. But man, I do like these characters. I like what they inspired as well.
Yeah.
Like knowing that we wouldn't have Wayne's World if we didn't have this.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Definitely pumps up my my feelings about this movie. One thing I do wish though is with all these other great SCTV folks that we knew of at the time that they were working with, that they were friends with, that they were close with, the Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara,
yeah, exactly.
John Candy. I would have loved to see a couple of them in different roles in this movie.
Even just cameos, small parts.
So looking back at this, because like $4 million budget, it's not that much, but it's enough to get some of your friends to come quickly and to like be a cashier or something.
Exactly. Right.
So that's one thing looking back that I might have liked, although, at the time they didn't know that all these people would become who they were. Right.
True.
So, but yeah, this is a fun one. It's enjoyable. I like talking about this one. I love Rick Moranis.
Yes.
His commitment to all his characters is really one of the best. Like we talked about Brewster's Millions, which is a movie he's in for 30 seconds, and he's like the best part of that whole movie. He's the best part
of that movie for sure.
So yeah, I thought this was fun. It's not as rip-roaring as I'd like it to be. Yeah. So I'm going to give this one a solid 3 out of 5 though. I think it's worth seeing. It's worth checking in on if you haven't seen it in a long time. Yeah. And I like these guys. They're fun.
I think I'm kind of right where you are with this. It was a great kind of trip down nostalgia, down the path of nostalgia for me, and things I hadn't thought of in a while. Like I said, I was so surprised that, Beauty didn't catch on as much with me as Hoser and Knob and A did, right? But I did find myself more than a little irritated by their delivery by the end of it. Like 90 minutes of them talking the way they talk and like, take off, you Hoser, like every 2 seconds. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm getting over it a little bit by the end. And it's definitely not, there's not much to the movie. It's silly. It is fun. It is absolutely totally family friendly. I don't even care that they drink beer, like whatever. It's fine.
Right.
None of them are ever really shown drunk.
No,
you know what I mean?
nobody's
So it's nothing
drunk
like that.
and
Exactly. So that's all good. I'm actually also a 3 out of 5 on Strange Brew, and no listener, we don't talk about that ahead of time. That's just how that happens. Very enjoyable. Still, like if you ask me thumbs up, thumbs down, I'm thumbs up. Just not a rip roaring thumbs up.
Yeah.
But a very, very fun movie. It was a lot of fun to watch. I don't think I'd seen it in probably 20 years at least.
Yeah,
like
it had
college.
probably been about that for me too.
So definitely fun to see again.
I wish I could get Elsinore beer. Like I would buy Elsinore beer if that was available.
If it was real.
Right. I mean, they can make like Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever brand mac and cheese, like things that had nothing to do with the movie, right? Why can't I get Elsinore beer that was beer in a movie?
Because $2 million at the box office. That's why you can't. But yeah, so the two dads are 6 out of 10 on Strange Brew. Not like a glowing rave, but definitely thumbs up. And I think, like Nick said, like if you've seen it, but it has been a while, go back and watch it. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it holds up the way you'd expect something that's PG and 40 years old to hold up. So definitely good. Well, shoot, that was my pick for 1983.
Right.
As we move on and we wrap up our 50th episode moving into 51. So we're getting into as we're approaching our goal of 1 million episodes, folks, we're trying to get to episode 1 million.
Someday.
Help us get there.
Someday.
We're going to 1984, and Steve, you got a pick for us from that year, right?
I do. I'm super excited about it. And I want to say first, we talked, I think, as we were doing like 80 and 81, especially, we both recognized, gosh, when you really think about the movies that we love from the 80s, it gets a lot more. When you get into 84, 85, 86, there's a lot more movies that we kind of really grew up with, really,
for sure.
Kind of affected us. And the movie that I've picked for 1984, I got to be honest with you, is it's not my favorite movie of all time now. But it was my favorite movie of all time for like the longest stretch of my life. Like, you know what I mean? For a long time, this was
it held
my
the belt
favorite
longer
movie.
than another film. Yeah,
absolutely. Like if you were to ask me right now, Steve, favorite movie of all time, I'd probably say Step Brothers. Like I feel like for me, it's like my style of comedy. It's like informed like a lot of kind of how I think about absurdist stuff, in from post-college life kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this movie was my favorite movie for a long time. And it stars, it was written by the director, everybody involved in it was involved in so many movies that we love from the era. I'm talking about people like, this was directed by Ivan Reitman. This stars Dan Aykroyd. It stars Bill Murray. It's Harold Ramis. It's Rick Moranis, who we're going to see again right away.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, who's gorgeous and wonderful in this and in everything else she's done. Yeah, we're going to see Ghostbusters, man. And this was like,
all right,
this was it for me. I literally still have hanging on the wall in my bedroom as a 46-year-old middle-aged dad. I have a framed photograph of Ramis and Aykroyd and Murray in their get-ups with their proton packs autographed by each of the actors.
Oh, nice.
Like that is like a prized possession in my
that's
house.
awesome.
So, we're going to go watch 1984's Ghostbusters next week.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Beauty, eh?
Beauty, eh?
That's a wrap. So if you like what you hear, please consider heading over to Apple or Spotify and leaving us a 5-star review. It helps new folks find the show. Be sure to check out our website at twodads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1. There you can explore the movies we've covered, sign up for our newsletter, The Rewind, and even get sneak previews of upcoming episodes. We'd also love it if you followed us on Instagram at 2dads1movie. Once again, this has been Strange Brew, another episode of 2 Dads, 1 Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everyone.